Morning, folks. It's Christmas Eve, and yeah, overlook the mess. I'm out here at my shop for now, you could say, outside the basement here. But I was going to do something today, and I'm going to show you something. I'm going to show you how to overhaul an engine in one day. And yeah, that's right, overhaul an engine. It's that time of year. See this? All this creosote here in the bottom of my chimney cap. This goes on the bottom of the chimney. It goes right here and locks in. I've got a stainless steel chimney. It goes up the side of the house, and I burn wood. Burn several different types of wood. It's a double wall insulated chimney, stainless steel. Been a really good chimney. I've had it 10 or 12 years now. I actually had it in the other house I lived in. When I built this one, I moved it and extended it. Very, very good chimney. And yeah, what I said is correct. You can see the creosote down in there. Like I say, this is the pipe from inside the stove, and this is right at the stove. This part right here goes down into the stove. Of course, I've got a draft control here. You can see the soot and the creosote. I'll knock all this off and run a brush through it, but guys, the chimney is the engine to your wood stove. You can think of the wood stove as your fuel cell, and the chimney is what makes it work. If the chimney doesn't draft and you don't get the chimney hot enough, it won't draft, and it actually pulls the air through the wood stove to make it work, if you don't know that. So the chimney is the heart of your wood stove. I grew up with chimneys and wood stoves all my life. I didn't really know that's exactly how it worked for many, many years. But if your fire won't draft, if your chimney won't draft, you won't have a good fire, and you'll end up with smoke and carbon monoxide and all kinds of things inside the house. So it's very important to maintain these things. And I do this once a year, maybe twice a year, depending on how I'm burning, which I try to burn very hot. If you don't have a thermometer, a wood stove thermometer, and I'll show that to you here a little later, on your wood stove, and if it ain't placed properly, you don't know how hot you're burning unless you just absolutely open it up. For years we didn't have a wood stove thermometer. We just burn it hot, and that makes a big difference. Some people say the types of wood makes a difference. I've been burning some cedar here lately. You can see it. It's good dry cedar. Big old chunk like that. It don't weigh much. Like I say, but it's good and dry. Been mixing it with some oak, a little bit of maple, different things I've had. Hickory, burned hickory all last year. Like I say, burn it hot. That's the main thing. But I'm gonna try to get you set up here, and I'm gonna show you just what comes out of this chimney. And yeah, a lot of it's gonna hit the ground. I'm sorry, because it's all this junk in here. I've just got a mess. It's hard to keep it and catch it, but we'll do the best we can to catch what we can, and I'll show you what comes out of this. And yeah, if y'all look, they're moving the trains this morning. Like I say, they work all 365 days a year pretty much. They might get Christmas Day off, but it's Christmas Eve this morning, and I ain't got some time here. So y'all just hang by, and I'm gonna see if I can't get you set up and let you see what comes out of this chimney. All right, guys, a couple more things to mention, maybe a little extra, but I wear one of these old cheap free nylon jackets. This creosote will get all over you. I also go ahead and wear an old paper mask and some protective equipment on my eyes. And I've got an old flower pot. I'm going to try to set up here and catch some of this for you. Like I said, this won't be perfect. It's a long way from perfect. But I want to show you what'll come out. Like I say, that chimney wasn't too bad because I did it before I started burning, but you can see what did come out of there. And that's a lot of creosote. I mean, for a stainless steel chimney burning hot, that's a lot of creosote. And what happens, that stuff just keeps building up. And if this was the chimney, it sticks to the sides. And it'll just keep building and building and building and building. And then one day you'll get a hot fire. And it's real hot, you know, 400 or 500 degrees, maybe 5 or 6 even. And that creosote will catch fire. And what happens is the creosote burns at thousands of degrees. I mean, it'll just keep gaining heat and BTUs. And a lot of times, the reason I like the stainless steel chimneys is they lock together. And they've all got a lip like this here and a lock. And then there's at least an inch of padding, maybe a little more, of wool or a fiberglass substance that keeps it away from the house. You can see mine sits out away from the house with those stainless steel brackets. But a lot of chimneys are built out of clay tile. And over the years of freeze, thaw, heat, freeze, thaw, wet, damp, they get holes between the mortar joints. And the mortar is not as strong as the clay. And heating it up and cooling it down, heating it up and cooling it down, it will allow the fire, if you have it, to escape into an attic area or siding or any wood or anything that's a flammable material. And once you get this creosote on fire, it is hard to put out. It is very, very hard to put out. It's like I say, it just keeps gaining BTUs because it's a tar-like substance, and it will actually melt. Right now it's flaky and nice and, you know, powdery. I mean, the brush has a lot to do with that, but it will just turn to like a tar and it'll start running, and that stuff catches on fire just like an oil. And that's what it is. It's the wood oils and the sap and everything out of those trees. And it's just like setting an oil barrel on fire. It's very, very hard to put out. Starving the oxygen is one way to do it. Adding too much oxygen is another way to do it. I have had this chimney as far as just burn itself out. In other words, I get a fire so hot and get a little extra creosote in it because I've been a little lax or lazy, and it'll burn. I add more oxygen by removing this cap right here. I can drop this cap and it'll burn. It'll suck too much oxygen and actually put itself out, similar to what they used to use in oil field fires, and I'm sure they still use it, where they cause a controlled explosion which removes the oxygen from the air for just a moment. That's the best way I can tell it to you. Like I say, that's a lot more physics and stuff that you probably don't want to know, because do not add oxygen to a fire if you've got one. Don't do it unless you absolutely know what you're doing. But folks, this right here, if you don't do this, you will have a fire eventually, and when it is, it'll be bad and it'll be hot, and you might lose your house, because these are hard to put out. A creosote fire is very, very hard to put out. Like I say, clean your chimney, take your time to do it. If you don't know how to do it, pay the guy to do it. Even if it costs you $500, that's better than your house. Because, you know, even though my house has got a lot of junk around it and stuff, that's my home, that's my castle. It's a whole lot cheaper to clean that chimney for $500 than it is to take and let it burn down just because you're trying to stay warm in your castle. Anyway, I'll try to get you some more footage here in a little while. Like I say, this is just the outside part. I've been cleaning on the inside part too. And you can see there's buildup in there. There's some rust even. I mean, but this is not bad. I mean, this is not that bad at all. I mean, you can knock it off. I'll try to get you something here and show you. Like I say, I don't have my little brush out here, but this is why it builds up. I got something too big. See that that's how it builds up on the edges of your chimney. And it'll just keep building. And like I say, understanding what you've got, like I say, I've got a mess, guys, sorry. Understanding the mechanics sometimes of how things work and knowing why it's important to clean this soot and creosote off. See, this is creosote here. It's more of the tar substance. Some of this is rust, but it's still got creosote mixed in. And it's just very important that you do this. It doesn't matter even if you have an outside wood boiler, because this steel here, let's see, it's 24 gauge. Well, right here is how thick it is. This is a 1/8 inch welding rod that I'm holding. And you can see just how thin 24 gauge steel is. And this is your standard chimney pipe. Actually, this is the heavy gauge chimney pipe. And it doesn't take long for this stuff to glow cherry red. And cherry red, you watch your stove eyes all the time glow cherry red when you're cooking something. And you know the outcome of that. I mean, like I say, it can burn you, it can burn anything that's combustible. So, like I say, take time clean your chimney, guys. And this video's... Hey guys, I took this pipe apart, and this is a very good illustration on the upper end. This is where the T was at. Now, I've cleaned the T fairly well. I'll do some more scrubbing on it. But this is a good illustration as to how the creosote builds up. Like I say, this is right out of the wood stove. In other words, that end will be on top of the wood stove. This is about a 2.5, 3 foot piece of pipe that comes up to the T on the chimney and comes out the chimney. But you can see the creosote build up here. And let me find my little welding rod. And this is how it builds in your chimney. And see how fine of a powder it is at first. And like I say, I burn a hot fire. I mean, I try to burn as hot as I can, but you can't help for it to smolder if it's going out and you ain't home or something. And the smoldering's what causes this, not burning a hot enough fire. And like I say, types of wood and moisture and all that stuff. But this will just keep building. And it'll keep building and building and building. Because this here's a 16th, 3/32 welding rod, excuse me. And it's already 3/32 over it. I mean, it's over 3/32. So, you know, 1/8 inch of build up or so. And this will just keep building. And it'll just eventually choke down to where there's nothing there unless it burns out before then. But you can see how much there is in there. And that's a lot of creosote that should have been taken care of way before today. I mean, and that's my fault. Like I say, it's like anything else. This engine not being maintained, lack of maintenance, will fail. And when this one fails, your house burns down, possibly. I mean, not always, but it sure does cause you a whole lot of grief and headache, and usually a call from the fire department. And if you live a long way from the fire department, your house might burn down. Unless you can starve the oxygen or put something in it. You know, water's the worst thing you can put in a chimney, because especially if it's a cinder block and clay block chimney, because it'll bust those. And once you put the cinder block, the water in those chimneys usually bust. The clay pipe does, and that causes a leak into the home or the attic or the siding, and you've got a whole chimney to replace, unless you want to keep burning like a lot of people do, because of the money to replace the chimney and the work and the time, because it's not easy to replace a chimney, especially if it goes up through the center of your home. And yeah, I think you get the picture. Like I say, you can see how much creosote's in there. And what I'm going to do, I'll take this piece out, that flapper, and run my brush down through here, and I'll show you the difference. Let me run the brush down. Get over here and run my brush down through here. Alright, like I say, it's not perfect. Let's see my fingers down here. Look at how much creosote's gone. Like I say, I did remove the draft. Fairly long in a way, and I guess I've done a lot of talking, but it's very important to me to tell you why this happens. I mean, why you need to do it. So you can see down in there, and you'll see there's a hole right yonder, right here. That's actually a screw hole to hold this piece to that piece. Make sure you screw your pipe together, guys. Please make sure you screw it together, because this stuff in these joints, all these joints will expand and contract with hot and cold, and they can cause air leaks and even loosen this pipe from here to here, because this is a joint. Like I say, this here's a joint. You can see how the joints are fluted, so they're not perfectly sealed until you get to, unless you insert the chimney all the way to this. And I can tell you that sometimes getting it to this seal is kind of hard, but it's worth your effort to do that. But yeah, clean your chimney, guys, and I'll show you a little bit more later here. Alright, like I say, that's the hard part of putting those in. But once you get it in, you can see what it does. You can pretty much close the chimney off or open it up. From less draft, more draft. And that's important on cloudy days and stuff. So, like I say, handy little thing to have. It never closes the chimney completely by design. It doesn't do that. Like I say, because the last thing you want is a closed off chimney. But anyway, hang tight, we'll get you some more footage.